we had a mailbag question on Thursday's episode about quarterbacks who fans should know. And as we started rattling through them and as we started putting our list together, all of a sudden we realized like this might be something that has great value to our friends in the Cover 3 family. So we want to get you tuned into the top wide receivers in the game. So, Tom, next man up, wide receivers. Who are some of the names that you think are going to emerge as some of the top ones in the game?
As far as emerging as a guy that maybe not as many people are familiar with because they had to play a more limited role on their offense last year because of guys ahead of them. Let's go back to LSU. They've got Brian Thomas. They've got Malik Neighbors. Both will be first-round picks. And they have another possible first-round pick who will be back in school next year named Kyron Lacey, who, when you watch, it's like, because I've been watching a lot of LSU tape for Jaden. I've been watching it for Thomas. I've been watching it for Malik. He pops like a whole hell of a lot. And he has, I don't know. There are some times where like he starts his route, he just hops on one leg. Like he'll take 3 or 4 hops, and the defensive back looks confused as hell because he has absolutely no idea what route he's setting up, and then he just goes. And I think it's kind of brilliant because there really is no indicator of what route he's about to run, and it's just really fun to watch. That's something that stands out. But I think you go into that offense next year, yeah, Jane Daniels will be gone. It's probably going to be Nussmeier, we think, winning that starting job.
Yeah.
So that offense is Denbrock's gone, Jaden's gone, Malik is gone, Brian Thomas is gone. That offense is still going to be fine.
I was thinking that for the purposes of this conversation, we all agree Emeka Egbuka is a household name, right?
Yes.
I don't know if you can make a real argument that in terms of household name, there's another one.
Because most households are not recruiting households.
Luther Burden is like,
I thought I would have pushed back that he might be already, but across the national landscape.
Landscape.
There is one. Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
Ah!
I had him on a separate column to discuss because what do we think we're going to get from him next year? And
I think he's a better receiver than a DB, honestly. But I don't know what the plan's going to be for him.
Do you know most of the draft projections for next year don't have him as a wide receiver? They have him as a DB.
I think that'll change.
I think most draft projections for next year are like straight garbage.
Yeah, they're just
and I think the ones right now for this coming year are pretty good. It's not a reflection on the evaluators. I think it's a reflection on the business. You don't really make much money looking ahead to next year's draft right now. Like it's money making season for this draft right now because the consumers are NFL fans. Like I'm not trying to crap on these guys. Like I just don't think they're putting in the same amount of effort. Like it's the same thing in the recruiting industry. I guarantee you our 2027 rankings are going to change a whole heck of a lot by the time we get to 2027. Okay. We got to put some out now. It's basically the guys we've seen, we know about. They're going to change a whole lot. Like early rankings are very not trustworthy.
You know who has started doing research on the 2025 class?
You?
This guy.
So if Shedeur Sanders is going to have a big year, a good enough season to boost an NFL draft stock, then he's going to need a lot from his wide receivers. And there's no wide receiver that is more gifted at the game of football than Travis Hunter. Having Travis Hunter, again, household name, and Danny, like you said, put him out to the side a little bit, but any outlook for the Buffs that is positive has to include him playing a lot of wide receivers and coming up with big catches, right?
I think so.
I've got Isaiah Bond, I think is going to be one of the top wide receivers in the entire country. You remember him for the 4th and a mile, gravedigger catch from Jalen Milroe in the Iron Bowl, but him over there with all those attempts and all those passes available in that Texas offense, I think is going to be huge. Evan Stewart, who's that? Oregon
from Texas A&M.
From Texas A&M. So we got a couple transfers in there. Isaiah Bond, Alabama to Texas. Evan Stewart, Texas A&M to Oregon. Bud, what's your read on Evan Stewart and yards after catch? And what's your read on his ability to take shorter passes and turn them into long pass plays?
Extremely good because he's also like one of the best soccer playing football players we've seen. He was like a legitimately good soccer player. So I think the footwork and the ability to make guys miss is pretty high.
What are some other names we want to make sure we get out here?
For me, I really like Georgia's Dylan Bell. I think he's going to emerge as a top guy for them. He was not a very highly rated recruit, I don't think, but he's kind of really come on. They use him in a lot of different ways, and I think he's very effective in a lot of different ways. I've seen a lot of people mention Kevin Concepcion at NC State. I think that is a very good call. He was a very, very impressive player last year. And then, yeah, Deion Burks, who transferred from Purdue to Oklahoma.
Yep.
Correct? Yeah, okay. Yeah,
if you're looking at like a Jackson Arnold, Deion Burks kind of combination, where if you want to be excited about Oklahoma's pass game, you've got the young buck taking the reins, and then also Purdue's best wide receiver and one of the better wide receivers in the Big Ten arriving and being able to help inject some life into that.
He just looks different on film. Go back and watch his speed against that Wisconsin team on that. Was it a Friday night game?
Yes, it was on Peacock.
That looked different. Danny, you want to go?
Sure. I had Alec Ayomenor. I think that's how you say his last name.
Yeah.
Stanford dude who had to go. Like, he's flying under the radar, but I mean, he was the one who dominated. He had almost 300 yards against Travis Hunter, who was trying to go
leading
both
receiver
ways.
for freshmen in the country among true freshmen.
Was he the top? I actually had
like 80% of it came in the one game.
Yeah. I had Teteroa McMillan, Arizona.
Yeah.
Monster year last season. 6'3", big receiver, feet and him staying together. That was a huge one. I had Torrey Horton, Colorado State, coming back, kind of flying under the radar. Will Shepard from Vandy. I'm partial to the taller guys. Some of these too, you just don't know how the season's going to go. You're kind of concerned about that one. And then I had Squirrel Wright from Tennessee. He's not a big guy, but I think with some quarterback stability, with Nico coming in, I think he could be somebody who benefits from that within the SEC.
I had a bunch of schools where I didn't know who's going to emerge. And I'm talking Penn State, Tennessee, Clemson, Notre Dame, Alabama, Texas A&M, Utah, like where they've got Dorian Singer coming in there. Like, who knows? Hey, you want to talk about blast from the past? Micah Pittman's still in the league. Like, on his third or fourth stop after 3 or 4 season-ending injuries. Is he ever going to find help? I mean, for Nico, Brew McCoy is back, and we've been waiting on Brew McCoy to have a full season of health and production, for a long, long time. There's a couple, like, Bud, did you ever end up settling, when we were texting about this over the weekend, you said, I need to pick out my Clemson guy. Who do you think is going to be who you would lock on to? Like Tyler Brown, who had a really good
Yeah, I was thinking Tyler Brown. Like he, when healthy, all right, so there's a couple guys out there who they weren't crazy high volume for various reasons, but when they were healthy, like they were young guys who the team would try to force the ball to. So Tyler Brown of Clemson was one. I thought Eugene Wilson at UF, when he was healthy, he was really featured like early and often in game plans in big games. Like you could tell they were trying to force him the football, which matters a lot because Pearsall, who tested off the charts at the combine, is gone now for the Gators. I think Tom's Dylan Bell fits in this category as well. But yeah, Tyler Brown for Clemson would certainly be one there for me. I think Florida State belongs in that conversation of there's going to be a guy, we don't know who it is. Hakeem Williams was a very raw 5-star freshman who ended up playing like meaningful third down, like non-gadget play snaps in critical games. Like they were out of guys when Keon and Johnny got hurt against Duke. They're like, Keon next up, and they were throwing him like back shoulder fades on third down, and he was coming up with it. So maybe a guy to watch watch for there. I think he has some. Is that not Malik Benson? Yeah, Malik Benson they did not have a real good like over the top speed guy because they had like Pookie Wilson in 22, who would hit like Oklahoma over the top stuff. But in 23, they didn't really have that because Destin Hill got hurt and some other guys got dinged up. I think Restrepo at Miami is going to catch a million balls. I don't know if he's a great NFL guy, but man, Cam Ward loves to target the slot. So I think he's, I say easily the favorite, but probably the early favorite to lead the ACC in receiving, in my opinion.
Catch like 80 balls.
Yeah.
I've got Cam Ward and Xavier Restrepo as a top 8 quarterback wide receiver duo heading into the season.
I can see that.
Yeah, in terms
Just
of like
statistically,
production, yes, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, in that what matters? Like, I'm not trying to do raw talent.
winning is what matters. Chip.
Yeah, exactly. How important are you to yards and points that help your team win?
Carnell Tate for Ohio State.
Yes, he might.
Probably the next guy there, aside from Egbuka.
I mean, we talk about Egbuka being the name everybody knows. I wouldn't be surprised if Carnell Tate's the best receiver on Ohio State next year.
Concur. Zach Branch, USC.
That's the.
He also fits in like the Eugene Wilson, you know, like young guy, couldn't stay healthy. When he was healthy, they definitely tried to force feed him the ball type category.
And they're going to have to force feed him the ball next year because
he's the closest thing we have to Tyreek Hill in the sport.
Zach Branch.
Yeah.
He's not as thick, but speed wise and just that SYP speed, Zach Branch has it.
Who's quarterback for Oklahoma State?
Is Presley back still?
Yeah, Brennan Presley's back, and I think he's one of the best wide receivers in this group. But in terms of the overall pass attack, I don't know how much confidence. I don't know if we've got the other end of that quarterback tandem for me to put him up there in the top 10.
Get Brandon Whedon back there.
All 5 offensive linemen are 22 years or older, and they're all back.
Is Alan Bowman back?
Who's buying the beer? Everybody's buying.
Yeah, Alan Bowman's back.
Okay, so like between their offensive line and their quarterback, their average age is 29.
In the guest speakers that Oklahoma State's going to have this offseason, Gundy's going to have like a retirement speaker come in there. Like,
AARP.
You considered your retirement. You know, like everybody has a guest speaker series over the summer. Yeah. 2 G5 guys who I think could find some success at sort of like good P5 programs. Colin Lacey, who went to Louisville, and Eric McAllister, who went to TCU. Both those programs have a history of like feeding a number 1 receiver. If you think about it, like TCU threw the hell out of the ball to what's his name, who the Chargers took, Johnson 2 years ago.
Last year, Quentin Johnston. Yeah.
Quentin Johnston. And then LSU, or excuse me, Louisville typically under Braum, they force feed like one guy constantly. And so that could be, we'll see, could be Colin Lacey for Louisville. Do you have Notre Dame as a team in your group of like somebody's probably going to emerge, but we're not totally sure who?
Yeah, Jaden Greathouse, Jordan Faison, Jaden Thomas, and Bo Collins with question marks beside every single one of them on my sheet.
I kind of think Faison, but I'm not 100% confident in it yet.
I don't know who's going to emerge from Alabama. You got Kobe Prentice, Kendrick Law, and Jeremy Bernard.
Ryan Williams.
Freshman. Let's go.
He's going to be a 17-year-old freshman, I believe.
Oh, can we keep? Oh, it's going to be the new Braylon Allen.
And then
17.
I went back to review it because I agree, Kyron Lacey, but I think CJ Daniels could have a big season for LSU as well.
Yeah.
That was a really productive wide receiver at Liberty. I'm kind of excited to see what happens. The Nussmeier buzz, I mean the Buzzmeyer, like has been rocking for 2 years since before Jaden first got the job. So now we get to see it. No questions, no quarterback battle. Let's see what happens with, again, Joe Sloan taking over there in Baton Rouge.
I got
Keandre Lambert-Smith, Julian Fleming. Who else are we gripping onto in that Penn State wide receiver room?
I don't know.
We're gripping onto Andy Kotelnicki scheming guys wide open.
We are gripping onto Penn State running the damn hell out of the ball next year more than anything.
You see Nick Singleton's viral squat?
Yeah.
Like 700 some, I don't know. It looked like 3,000 pounds. I mean, it's not look like a running back.
A couple more in the freshman mold. Jeremiah Smith. Just there's never a guarantee that it's going to translate year 1, but the way that he destroyed other corner recruits who like good staffs loved, it's like, oh, okay, that was like it wasn't a fair fight. So the only guy we really never saw him go up against was Ellis Robinson, who was the number 1 corner. Like I would like to have seen that for a 60-minute fight if IMG could have played Chaminade. Because I talked to a guy about this yesterday. It's like, yeah, that would have been cool just to kind of gauge both of them in an actual game setting, but we never really got it. But he's one of the best receiver recruits we've ever seen. He's the highest rated one ever on 24/7 Sports. So definitely one to look out for. Jonte Cook as well at Texas is a guy I think we should be watching out for. Who was the dude who kept getting hurt at A&M with the toe injury? Noah Thomas?
I don't know.
I've got Jade Walker, Micah Tease, and Terry Bussey as my who's going to be there for Connor Wegman.
I had a little source at A&M telling me like they loved some Noah Thomas. I'm like 99% sure this is who. I'm trying to remember back to last year, but I'm pretty sure he had like a toe injury. But when he was in, they really liked him. This is tough, man, because like we have so many good players. I guess this is why we did the segment, right? So many good guys going to the NFL. But this is really kind of challenging.
Oh, Trey Harris.
Trey Harris at Ole Miss. Yep.
We they put out a viral video of claiming Jackson Dart and Trey Harris were one of the top quarterback wide receiver duos. You think that's a fair claim?
Yeah, production wise for sure. Just Trey Harris running that little route to the sideline, back shoulder, 75 times a game. That thing, nobody stopped it yet.
I think Michael Hudson will be pretty good and early for Texas Tech freshman. Just a real mature approach in how he runs his routes. I think a guy that just kind of gets it. So in that offense, I think he'll play pretty early and often. We already did Deion Burks. I'm trying to just go down my list, make sure I got all my check marks.
Yeah, I was the Deion Burks or Nick Anderson, and that's where I just think Burks is. I've been waiting. Nick Anderson we've always thought is pretty good, but I thought that Burks was like a plus value, above good at Purdue, and I think he'll be the same at Oklahoma.
Malik Elzy at Illinois.
Yes. What do we do with Amarion Miller? Kind of emerged for Colorado late. They also brought in LeJontay Webster, who is
Wester. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Yeah.
I mean, he has a different skill set than those guys, like how big and powerful he is.
That's the thing, because I'm not 100% sure what the offense is going to look like, because they got rid of Sean Lewis during the season last year to run a more pro-style offense with Pat Shurmur, but the offense didn't really look all that dissimilar to what they were doing under Lewis. So I don't know. We'll see. Are they coming out with 12 personnel next year? I have no idea.
Yeah. Elijah Surratt at Indiana, who came over from James Madison, could be like a low-key fantasy
Donovan
play.
McCulley, who Indiana has too, who entered the portal and came back. He's a big body guy. He's not really going to blow you up, but he's tough. He's tough to cover.
I had the leftover note from our assistant coaching carousel recap. Well, I forgot to give Indiana flowers because they just took James Madison's staff. So, it worked. What seemed pretty good at in Harrisonburg. So if they can make it work in Bloomington, then that could end up being one of the big winners of the assistant coaching carousel, with Curt Cignetti keeping the band together for the most part.
Ryan in the chat brought this up, but he said Sarkisian does have this sort of like Miami Dolphins tiny receivers, fast as hell receiver type thing going, which I kind of don't hate for what Sark does with all these shot plays.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I was saying earlier, it keeps the defense way off the line of scrimmage. And
they're faster this year than last year, right? Overall.
Mm-hmm. And you have two very good running backs who are going to have a lot of open space to run into.
It's great. It's a great way to build a roster. It's probably why we all think you're a top 5 team going into next season.
I've got a take for off air. We'll save it for later. I'll share it with you guys though.
50,000 subscribers, and Tom announces this take.
Tune in Wednesday.
Last one, Chris Lewis, Troy.
Okay.
He was a guy who was kind of blocked out under the old no double transfer rule unless you graduated. But now that's out the window. Go watch his tape against South Alabama.
Chris Lewis?
Chris Lewis, yeah. He was a Kentucky signee, and in the biggest games, he showed up pretty big.